Hello everyone, this is Varun and this is my channel UPSC en route IAS. This channel is dedicated to all the persons who are preparing for UPSC or any other state civil services exams. In this video, I will be covering the tips on how to learn various ocean currents. One thing I would like to clarify before starting the video, that is I won't be covering the concepts related to the generation of ocean currents. I will only be covering the tips on how to learn these ocean currents. I will be covering the concept on generation of ocean currents in a separate video. So if you like my video, please subscribe to my channel UPSC en route IAS. You can also log in to my website enrouteias.com. I also have a Facebook page that is en route IAS and a Facebook group en route IAS. You can join all these. In case you have any question, you can directly mail it to me on my mail ID, that is varunsharma398@gmail.com. Let us directly come to the ocean currents now. So as you can see over here in the picture, these are the various ocean currents that are produced on the surface of the earth. The blue ones are the cold currents and the red arrows are the warm currents. So for our ease, what I will be doing is that I will be dividing both of them into the northern part and the southern part. That is the part to the south of the equator and the part that is not to the equator. This will actually help us to remember these ocean currents more easily. So now let us go to the next slide and see the various ocean currents and try to remember them. Now let us come to the ocean currents. So before learning the ocean currents in detail, I would like to tell you one or two things that might help you in remembering these ocean currents. So the first thing is that in most of the cases, the currents that are flowing on the western margin of the continents are usually cold, whereas the currents which are flowing on the eastern margin of the continents are usually warm. For example, you can see over here the California current that is on the western margin is a cold current, whereas the Gulf Stream current on the eastern margin of North America is a warm current. Similarly, the North Atlantic drift that is also on the eastern margin is also a warm current. Now when we come to South America, you can see over here the Brazil current that is on the eastern margin is a warm current, whereas the Peru current that is on the western margin is a cold current. You can see similar cases in other continents also, but this is not a rule of thumb and this cannot be generalized. It has some exceptions to it that we will be discussing in detail in the coming slides. Now coming to another important current that is flowing in the southern part of the Earth's surface, and that is nearer to the Antarctic Ocean. This is a cold current because the temperature is very cold over there, and this current is called the west wind drift or the east wind drift. Another important current flowing over here on the surface of the earth is a warm current. That is the north equatorial and the south equatorial currents. These currents flow parallel to the surface of the equator. Now what we will do is that we will be dividing the surface of the earth into two halves, that is the northern part and the southern part, and we will try to remember all the currents in detail in the next slide. Now let us divide the surface of the earth into two parts and try to remember all the ocean currents one by one. So the first part that we will be taking is the northern part. So in the northern part, you can see over here you have a north equatorial current and it is a warm current since it is nearer to the equator. The second part that we will be taking is between the North America and Europe. So over here you can see the major important currents between North America and Europe are, the first is the Gulf Stream current. So as we have already discussed in the rule that on the eastern parts of the continents you have warm currents. So the Gulf Stream current flowing on the eastern margin of USA is a warm current, whereas the Canary current that is flowing on the western margin of Europe is a cold current. Another important current over here is the North Atlantic current. This flows nearer to the North American and the Greenland part, and it goes to Europe. So these are the four major important currents that flow between North America and Europe. Apart from this, we have another important part, that is the currents that are flowing between North America, Greenland and Europe. So the first important current over here is the Labrador current. Labrador current is a cold current and it flows between Greenland and North America. So over here you can see that our rule does not apply since it is between a very small region and it is not in an open area. So this current does not follow the rule, that is all the currents flowing on the eastern margins are warm currents. So this though flows in the eastern margin, but still it is a cold current. So you must remember that Labrador current is a cold current and flows between North America and Greenland. A lot of questions are asked on this current. The second important current is the Greenland current. So the Greenland current basically circumferences whole of the Greenland and it is a cold current. So it comes in both parts, that is between North America and Greenland and North America and Europe also. So this is a cold current and it flows between these parts. Another important current over here is the Norwegian current. Now again you can see that our rule does not apply over here because this is again a very small gyre that has been created over here, and since it is on the western margin of the continent, it should be cold, but it is not the case. It is again a warm current. So remember these exceptions, these are very important. Do not confuse them in the exam, just try to remember them according to the block diagram I have given. Now let us take the second part. The second part is the part between Asia and USA or the North America. So the first important current over here is the Kuroshio current. Again our rule applies over here. On the eastern part you have warm currents. So Kuroshio current is a warm current and it is on the eastern margin of Asia. The second current is the California current. Now you can see over here California current is again on the western margin. It follows our rule and it is a cold current. Another important current over here is the North Pacific current. Similar to the case of North Antarctic current, it again flows on the top of the gyre and it is a warm current. On the base you have again the North Equatorial current, and already discussed it is a warm current. So try to remember this block diagram, this is very important. Apart from these main currents flowing between Asia and North America, you have two more smaller currents. The first is the Oishio current. This Oishio current basically flows on the topmost eastern margin of Asia, but despite of flowing through the eastern margin, it is still a cold current. This is an exception to our rule. The second important current is the Alaskan current. So you can see over here the Alaskan current basically flows nearer to the North America, and again it is a warm current. So these are the most important currents that flows through the northern hemisphere, and you must remember all these currents in detail. Just go through this diagram once more and try to remember this block diagram and try to link it to the various currents that are flowing on the surface of the earth. Now after completing the northern hemisphere, let us come to the southern hemisphere. So as you can see over here in the southern hemisphere, similar in the case of northern hemisphere, we again have the south equatorial current, and that is a warm current. Similarly, as we have already discussed in the initial slide, that a cold current flows near Antarctica, and that is called a west wind drift. So this is a cold current and it flows on the base of the southern hemisphere. Now let us come to the parts come to the ocean currents and divide them according to the parts, that is the parts between the continents. So the first part is the part between the South Africa and South America. So over here you can see that on the eastern margin of South America you have a warm current, that is the Brazil current. Similarly, on the western margin of South Africa you have a cold current, and that is called the Benguela current. So remember these two currents, this is very important, that they flow between North America and South Africa, and Brazil current is a warm current, whereas the Benguela current is a cold current. The ocean between both these continents is the Atlantic Ocean, so this gyre is called the South Atlantic gyre. Remember this thing, these both currents are very important, they are usually asked in the exam. Apart from this, on the lower side we have the South Atlantic drift, that is the cold, that is the warm current which flows just above the west wind drift nearer to the Antarctic Ocean. Similarly, on the top side, we have again the south equatorial current, which is a warm current which we have already discussed. Now, let us come to the next part, that is the part between Australia and South America. So, this is basically South Pacific gyre, since Pacific Ocean flows over here, so it is called the South Pacific gyre. So, the main important currents in this part are, the first is the Peru current. The Peru current, since it is on the western margin of South America, so it is a cold current. Similarly, the other current to the eastern margin of Australia is called East Australia current. It is again a warm current. So, as you can see over here, all the major currents follow our rule, that is, on the western margin you have the cold currents, whereas on the eastern margin you will have the warm currents. Similar to it, you also can see over here, you again have the South Pacific current over here and the South Equatorial current over here. So, both these currents are warm currents. So, remember, on the top side and the bottom side, both in the northern hemisphere as well as in the southern hemisphere, you have warm currents. This will actually help you in remembering which current is warm and which is cold. Now, coming to the next part, the part that is between the South Africa and the Indian Ocean part. So, this part is called Indian Ocean gyre. You might not be able to see India over here because India is in the northern hemisphere, but since majority part of the Indian Ocean is in the southern hemisphere, so we have included these currents into the southern part and not in the northern part. So, over here you can see that this gyre is basically in between Africa and Australia. So, this is the reason that we have not taken it in the northern part and we have taken it in the southern part. So, the most important currents over here are, first is the Agulhas current. Again, the Agulhas current is on the eastern margin of Africa. So, it is a warm current. The second important current is the West Australian current. It is on the western margin of Australia, and since it's on the western margin, so it's a cold current. So, remember both these currents. Now, two important currents over here that must be remembered is the South Indian current, and on the top side you have the South Equatorial current. So, remember both these currents are very important and they are also sometimes asked in the exam. Apart from this, you have another small current flowing over here that is nearer to the Australian continent, that is the Leuven current. Now, this is an exception. Since this is flowing on the western margin, it should be a cold current, but it's not the case. It's a warm current. So, try to remember all these exceptions, because whenever UPSC asks a question, it is usually an exception. There are chances are less that UPSC will directly ask you a question on a normal current. Now, what kind of questions can come in the exam? UPSC will not ask you directly whether which current is warm or which is cold. It can give you a question, for example, that for example, let us take a question that Brazil current is flows with between which two continents, and whether it is a warm current or it's a cold current. So, it will ask you in detail about the currents being warm or cold, and also about the location of the current. So, try to remember locations also, which current flows between which two continents, and wherever you can remember, just try to remember the location also and the important city also, if you can remember, besides a current. For example, you can see over here that Durban is basically located nearer to the Agulhas current. So, you must remember this city also. So, try to remember one or two major cities that are nearer to the currents, as they also might be asked in the exam. So, this is all about the currents that flow in the southern hemisphere. So, when we combine both these diagrams of the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere, this is something what we get over here. So, over here you can see the major currents that flow through the northern hemisphere as well as the southern hemisphere. You can go through this diagram. It will definitely help you to remember all the major ocean currents that are that flow on the surface of the earth, and it will definitely help you to answer one or two questions that are asked in the exam on the various ocean currents. But be very thorough with the location as well as the nature of the current, because this is very important topic and UPSC has a liking for this topic. Every year they usually ask one or two questions from this topic, so you must remember all these ocean currents in detail. Thank you everyone for watching my video. I hope it will definitely help you in your exam. If you like my video, please subscribe to my channel, YouTube channel, that is UPSC En route IAS. Apart from that, I have a Facebook page, that is En route IAS. Please like my page, and you can also go to my website enrouteias.com. Over there I have already uploaded some of the study material, and I will be uploading some more study material over there. My email ID is varunsharma398@gmail.com. If you have any query, you can directly send a mail to me. I have also added a video on the important books for preparation of UPSC prelims exam. Please go through that video, and if you find that video beneficial, then please buy those books. For your convenience, I will also be adding the links of the videos as to where you can find them online in the comment section of the YouTube channel also, and I will also be adding the list on the website too, so you can go through the list of the books, and if you want to buy those books, kindly buy those books from the links provided by me. Thank you once again for watching my video. This is Varun from En route IAS.